this is Dan Kidder from Sportsman's Warehouse. Spring is sprung and it's now time to get into the great outdoors. But the other thing that's going on is Mr. and Mrs. Bear are waking up from hibernation. So we got our spring bear hunts coming up. We got people getting out to recreate. We've got bears coming out of hibernation with cubs. So that can make for a really bad situation if you don't take some basic steps to live with bears. This 50-quart Lost Creek cooler has heavy-duty rubberized handles that you gotta really pull down on to get inside of. It's nice and roomy and spacious. It will keep your drinks and your food icy cold for up to a week. It is heavy-duty and it will withstand a bear trying to get in there. They fill these things with rotten fish and throw them into a cage with some grizzly bears and see how long it takes the grizzly bear to get in there, or if they can even get in there at all. So this cooler is certified as bear safe. It also has some bottle openers on it, good heavy duty rope handles so you can carry with a friend, or under handles so that you can carry it by yourself. It's a heavy duty, good quality cooler, and it's only available at Sportsman's Warehouse. One of the things I like to do if I'm going into the backcountry a little bit lighter with like a backpack only is carry one of these bear vaults like this one from Counter Assault in my pack. It's got no little edges for Mr. Bear to get his claws into, and it can be opened with something as simple as a coin, a screwdriver bit on your pocket knife, or any tool that can fit into these little slots. And then you give it a little bump on the bottom to pop the top off. And it's a good roomy way to keep that food out of the bear's mouth and in your stomach. So this is a good safe way to lock up your food if you're going lighter weight with like just a backpack. One thing I like to have when I go out is my Mystery Ranch backpack. It's roomy enough for me to carry all the things I need, plus my bear keg. One accessory I like to have for that is this bear spray holster by Mystery Ranch that goes right on your webbing of your belt. It gives you real quick access to your bear spray so you can get to it when you need it. Let's talk about bear spray for just a second. This is the same chemical compound that's used in the little keychains that you use for self-defense, but it's at a much higher concentration of oleoresin capsaicin, which is the active ingredient derived from peppers. It's an oil that they take out of hot peppers. This is the most effective way to deal with bears in the outdoors. The U.S. Forest Service did research into all of the bear encounters involving firearms, and they found that the most effective firearm for a bear attack was a 12-gauge shotgun with slugs. But they found that this was much more effective in almost all of the encounters that they looked at. The bear spray that you can get different brands. You've got Frontier, you've got UDAP, Counter Assault. They're all kind of the same thing. They all work great. We're gonna fire this puppy off in a little bit, and it's concerning because it's a little bit windy day. But this is so far been found by the U.S. Forest Service, who spends a lot of time in grizzly territory. And I also spoke with the leading expert on grizzly human encounters in the world, Dr. Steve up in Wyoming, and he told me he does not leave his truck in bear country without this in his hand, ready to go. So get yourself some bear spray if you're going to be hanging out where bears live. Some other things to be aware of when you're living with bears is how you handle your food. Here in Utah, where I live, a few years back, a young man was killed by a black bear because he took a Snickers bar into his sleeping bag, and the bear wanted to get to that and inadvertently killed the child. When you talk about bears, you've got three main bears here in the United States that you have to deal with. In the lower 48 states, you've got black bear in just about every state. You have grizzly bears in the northern part of the country, especially in the middle northern part of the country. And then up in Alaska, you've got Kodiak brown bears. For the most part, black bears don't want anything to do with you. They do get hungry and they are attracted to food. So some steps that you can take to keep yourself safe in black bear territory is you cannot take any food into your tent. Even putting it in your car is questionable because they've ripped doors off of cars to get in. These bears are extremely strong. Don't put any food in camp If you're cooking, don't dump your bacon grease right there in camp where you're all going to be hanging out. Take it off into the woods a little bit and dump it out there. Even if you're cooking aromatic food, even your clothing can attract a bear into your tent. So if you take your clothing that you've been cooking in, you can invite a bear into your tent in the middle of the night. Some other steps, especially if you are up in the areas that have brown bears in them. Brown bears are nasty. They have a bad attitude and they will chase you down. Sometimes they do what's called a bluff charge. They'll run at you and try to scare you off. This is especially prominent if they have cubs in the area. Don't ever get out and try to get pictures with bear cubs. Don't ever try to pet bear cubs. Yeah, they look nice and cuddly, but mama's somewhere and she's not gonna really appreciate you doing that. So if you see bear cubs in the area, look around for mama. Watch where the bears are going and go in the opposite direction and keep your eyes open for mama. If you get a bear charging at you, your best bet is to deploy that pepper spray. You don't worry if it's a bluff charge or a real charge, just assume it's a real charge and deploy that pepper spray. I'm not advocating for what should be the law, but I'm gonna tell you that if you shoot a bear, you're gonna have to deal with the Fish and Wildlife Service. And just like any dangerous animal, mountain lion, wolves, coyotes, there's going to be an investigation and they're going to really want to see that you had no other choice but to shoot that bear. So using that pepper spray is a good non-lethal way to keep you out of trouble with the Fish and Wildlife Service and to keep you safe. Don't try to outrun a bear. They can run faster than a freight train and they will run you down. Don't try to climb a tree, they climb trees. You can get a tree between you and the bear and play a little game of that, but your best bet is to have that bear spray. And we're going to discharge that here in just a second and let you see what that looks like. I'm a little concerned because it's pretty windy out here today and I don't want to get that back in my face, but it won't be the first time or probably the last time that I get pepper sprayed. So stand by for that and we will show you what that looks like when it gets deployed. Okay, it is good and windy. So I'm going to pull back on this safety and take that off. I'm going to aim it and I'm going to fire. And that's what it looks like. And I'm really glad the wind didn't change directions. Bears are majestic creatures that live in the woods where we like to recreate, and it's important for you to be very respectful of their habitat and where they live. There's an old joke that goes around that says when you go into the woods, in order to deal with bears, you should carry some bear spray, pepper spray, and the little bells on your backpack so that you don't sneak up on the bear and scare them. Then of course the hiker asked the ranger, how can you tell the difference between black bear scat and brown bear scat? Well, black bear scat, he says, has little berries and bones of rodents in it. And brown bear scat has little bells and smells like pepper. Be safe when you're in the outdoors. Always hike with a friend. And remember, you don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun your friend. This is Dan Kidder with Sportsman's Warehouse. And Sportsman's Warehouse has a wide variety of products to help you live with bears. You can check them out before your next trip or online at sportsmans.com.